Alright, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be installing this Torque Solution rear diff insert on the 2018 Subaru WRX. So I first saw this on Import Image Racing's install video for the 2022 WRX, and I saw that it was compatible for the previous gen, the VA models, so I decided to give it a shot. According to the reviews, it changes the feeling of the car and it just makes drivability a little better. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing installed on the car, but first let's open it up. So in the package, you get these 6 pieces right here, 2 washers and 4 of these polyurethane bushings, 2 for the rear diff and then 2 for the diff carrier. So what this is supposed to do is give you better feedback, sharper responses, and better throttle input by eliminating the slop from the rear diff section of the car, so the rear of the car. So if you guys can see here, as mentioned, they're polyurethane. They're a little stiff, but they still have a little bit of flex. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if these make a difference with the overall drivability of the car. So my plan is to get these installed, and then I wanted to provide you guys with my honest opinion on it to see if I feel or hear anything different with the car. I think it's important to mention that the results may vary, meaning I might have a different experience than you guys with these. And I think it's also important that I list out what I have done to the car that may impact the results. So to start off, the car is on some GT Works Bilstein shocks and RCE yellow springs. The RCE yellow springs are for the STI, but I went ahead and put them on my WRX. So the ride quality is a little harsh compared to the WRX springs, just because I am running a harsher setup. So if we go over here where the transmission area is, I have the Group N transmission mount with the bushings from Whiteline. And then if we pop the hood, so apologies, it's a little dark, but you guys can see the parent strut tower bar, and somewhere in there just under the intercooler is the parent pitch stop and parent pitch stop brace to prevent the pitch stop from breaking. So with that said, let's go ahead and get the car lifted up. Side note, you don't need to lift up the entire car for this. I'm pretty sure this could be done with just some ramps or some regular jack stands and a jack, but I have the convenience of lifting up the entire car, and so we are going to be doing that today. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we're at the rear of the car and we're going to be working with 2 sets of bushings. First 2 are right here just above the sway bar, and then the last 2 are going to be right there where that diff carrier is. There's the first one and then the second one right there. So let's go ahead and get these popped off. Save all the nuts and bolts since we're going to be reusing them. All 4 of them are going to be 17 millimeters. Okay, now that we got those off, I mentioned in the beginning that there's 2 sets of bushings that came with the kit. If you guys can see, here's this one right here. It's kind of a square with rounded off edges right here. And then we have this one that looks like a smiley face. This is the one that you want for the actual differential. And how to install this, you simply just flip it upside down like so. And then just slap it on there. Just like that. You can see the cutouts from here when you unbolt it. It's a little hard to see on the camera, but just make sure the faces are upside down. And then just want to pop that in there. And on a side note, Cody from Import Image Racing made a good point. If your car's a little newer, then you may have to poke some holes on the bushings just to get these ones to sit properly in there. So if your car has some miles on it, like mine has about 34,000 miles, it's no issues and I can insert it easily. So you just want to make sure that they're flush on there. You just want to push them in. Next thing is you get your washer, place that on there, 17 millimeter nut, and then you want to go ahead and start to tighten it. And then we're going to be torquing these down to 44.7 foot-pounds. Alright, so now that you got these 2 secured, let's go ahead and start on the diff carrier. Alright, so now we're at the rear diff carrier, and It's gonna be two 17mm nuts on each side right here, and then the 17mm bolt on the other side. And I almost forgot, there's actually two 17mm nuts under here as well. So you're gonna take off a total of 4 nuts and 2 bolts. And then that should just pop right off. All right, so we finally got the rear diff carrier off, and just be mindful of the orientation of it. This is towards the front of the car, so it's kind of pointing that way. But one thing you'll notice is that you have 2 bushings left with the kit. This is slotted, this side of it, the left, and then the right side of it is completely solid. So you'll want to put the bushings onto the slotted side, one on each side, just like so. All right, so some of you guys might run into this issue. The first side of it fits flush, and the second side of it, if you try, it's gonna leave a little bit of a space like that. And I noticed that this side is a lot more shallow than the other side, first side, and the back side of it is much deeper. So what I'm gonna do is poke these out right here, and I'm just using a blade and a little flathead screwdriver to do so. So hopefully it works. If not, then I can always just trim this down a little bit. That worked. Okay, so I pretty much slotted out the bushing, and then I put some grease on there, and I was able to just push it in, and now it's more flush. I mean, it's still kind of sticking out right there, but I figure when I install the bolts, it'll get it pushed in there. Let's go ahead and get it reinstalled on the car. All right, this might be a tight squeeze, but we'll make it work. All right, so I had to skip through a whole bunch of that, so I didn't want to just waste your time and record it, but this was pretty much a huge hassle to install just because of the bushings on the other side. They were a little too thick for the opening right here, but put some grease on it, managed to hit it in, and I had to use the jack to just basically push everything up, and now it's all secure. And the last thing that we want to do is to torque the nuts to 51.6 foot-pounds, and then we will be done with the install. All right, so we basically wrapped up the install. I'm gonna go for a drive and give you guys my initial thoughts on it. But before I do that, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Cody, AKA Street Inspired. Cody works for Import Image Racing, and I had some difficulty installing the left side of the diff carrier. But I sent Cody a couple photos and he deemed it was safe, and I highly trust his opinion. So I'm gonna leave it as is. Now I'm gonna go ahead and drop the car, and then we'll go on a drive. All right, so I gotta get gas, so I figure I do a point of view driving video just to give you guys my initial thoughts and feelings about these bushings. And this is more of a first impression, so. So I don't know if it's just in my head, but it feels, the shifts feel better, and it feels a lot tighter in the back. It feels more responsive. Wow, it feels different. That's all I can say. Let's do a quick downshift. It feels good, and it feels tighter, and just, it's hard to explain. just did a pull, and it feels a lot smoother than it was before. So another thing I noticed is that when you gas it, let's say you're in second gear, you give it some gas, I don't get that extra couple bounces anymore. Like before, you'd give it some gas and then it'll bounce, it'll jerk back and forth just a couple times, but that is now, it's been eliminated with the bushings. And like I said, it just feels like it's more planted overall. I mean, the front, I don't really feel a difference. It's just more towards the middle and back of the car. And that's where I feel the biggest change. And yeah, it just feels a lot more responsive, just trying to avoid these potholes. I don't feel like it rocks back and forth like it used to. Oh wow, yeah, that felt a lot planted. That's crazy. Who knew the bushings would make that much of a difference, man? And I feel like I'm able to shift a lot better and a lot faster. Wow, I'm really blown away, and I'm not gassing this up. Like, this is really my first thoughts and my first impression on these diff bushings. Yeah, the car feels a lot better, and I can tell you that. Yeah, look at gas, and it stays planted. It doesn't do the back and forth. Wow. As far as the noise, the harshness, and the vibrations, I right now at this moment in time, I don't notice anything out of the ordinary, but I'm sure if I drive it more, I'll pick up new sounds, and I'll think of more things. I'll feel more differences with the bushings. But for now, maybe it's a little louder, but just by a little bit. You won't even notice it. I'll close out the video when we get back to the garage. But yes, so far it feels a lot better, and it's just a lot stiffer. All right guys, so I just got back from that drive, and before installing this thing, the car felt, I don't want to say necessarily sloppy, but it definitely, something was lacking from the mid to the back portion of it. But after installing the bushings, I can claim that they do feel more planted, especially during the stop and goes. I don't feel the jerkiness anymore. Before, the car would jerk back and forth just a little bit when you take off and when you apply some throttle, but now that is completely eliminated, and I just think it feels better. Again, huge thank you to Cody from Import Image Racing. I really appreciate you helping me out on the spot with the diff carrier bushing. That one was a pain to install, but overall the install wasn't too bad. It's just, like I said, that one piece that really took a lot of time. But that's that. I'm gonna go ahead and close this one out. If you guys made it this far throughout the video, thank you so much for watching. Remember to always stay true to yourself, but more importantly, stay true to your build. I'll see you guys in the next one.